Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our Talking Tuesdays. As you all know, we have a very interesting topic today, the yin and yang of maternity care. So, welcome, and let's wait for 2 more minutes. Let's wait for Divya to join in and a few more of you joining us for our today's discussion. Hi, everyone. Hi, Anshika. Hi, Saranya. Hi, GV. So we should wait for 2 more minutes, and then once Divya is in, we can talk about our today's topic. And yes, I can see some familiar names joining us. Welcome. Hi, everyone. Hello. Welcome to our Talking Tuesdays. This is one of the interactions that we really look forward to having every day, every a week. Okay, Divya has joined, so I'm just going to add her to this conversation. Let me just put up our topic. Yes, there it goes, and I'm just going to add Divya now. Good afternoon,
Hi.
Divya.
Good afternoon. Hi, Tanvi. You're looking really pretty.
So are you?
Okay, with that out of the way. I heard you say that we look forward to this interaction. I think we look forward to it every day because we think about it every day when we are thinking
Correct,
topics.
absolutely.
And I think Gautam Arifia said, how do you think of these topics? It's because we keep thinking about what we want to talk about, what is a new conversation. Babies, moms, and families means so much to us.
Welcome, everyone.
Okay,
So,
so our
Divya,
topic
it's only
today is the,
12.
yeah, I was ready to jump in, Tanvi. Because this is a topic that is very close to my heart, the yin and the yang of maternity care. So before we jump into my telling you what it is, think for yourself, what does yin and yang mean for you? The most popular versions may be gender-based, feminine and masculine. In Chinese traditional medicine, the yin and yang is used as two opposing yet complementary forces. And if you see the symbol for yin and the yang, there are these two things folding into each other, complementing. A circle is supposed to be a never-ending, an eternal geometric shape. There's no start or end, and then these two are fitted in together. But what is also important is that we recognize that there's a little bit of a dot of black in the white and the white in the black. So it's not actually opposing. It is a bit of both. So, kind of putting that context out there because we don't want to have a conversation, this is better than this, or this is right and wrong. We don't want that duality perspective, but a perspective of saying we have these two elements and both have a value. And to be able to figure out where is the value of which. serves us better. So there is a whole therapy around it called polarity therapy. So I'd like to think of the yin and the yang as two opposite poles, and somewhere in the middle is the present, or is the neutral, or is the moment of neither. And in craniosacral therapy, we say between the inhalation of the breath of life and the exhalation, there is a moment of stillness. And from stillness, all motion emerges, and in it, it falls again. So think of the yin and yang, and we're going to explore what that means in maternity care. So we had put out two words on our poster, and one of them said caregiver, and one of them said care provider. And I'd like you to just take a moment to think of those two words and what arises in you in terms of a sensation, in terms of a feeling, in terms of a sense of what it means, caregiver and care provider. Because we use both these words for people who are giving us medical care. So we say medical caregiver, medical care provider, healthcare giver. So we want to think, what does it mean? Because how we view that is also going to be how we are going to expect our care, or bring care to us, or receive care, or even be acceptable of the care we are being given. So what is our expectation? And so if you could just kind of feel that for a moment and engage with us to say, do they feel different to you when you say them, caregiver and care provider? And if so, how? And if not, that's fine too, that no, they mean the same thing to you. And that's where we want to start this conversation with. So waiting to hear from you.
Any comments? Anyone?
Care, caregiver, how does that just feel? Don't have to think it, cognize it, give a relevant answer. One of them might feel a little bit softer, or a little bit fluider, or flexible, or another may feel a little bit more like boundary, or even secure. You might feel even secure with one of the words. Each one will come up with a different meaning, caregiver and care provider. Um, so giver is softer. Thank you,
Yeah.
Neha. Giver is softer. How many of us feel that? Giver more compassionate. Yeah, yeah. So the idea of giving, somebody offering you something versus somebody providing you, there is a subtle difference of the yin and the yang right there as we explore these two words. And more, our literature begins to talk about our doctors, not as somebody who give us care, but who provide us. There's a certain distance in the term provider than giver. Ideally, when we look at the feminine, the more gender classifications, we say that the feminine is more the giver or the caretaker or the nurturer, and the masculine is more the protector and the provider. So there's the yin and yang for you. Again, making very sure that we're not saying one is better than the other, or one you should aspire for one, but also what fits well with you. Some of us really need some hand holding because of our experiences, because of our programming. Some of us want a little bit more flexibility. So it's very important that we understand what is the care we are going to get. So let me start with old times, and I'm drawing upon some of our conversations with Janet Chawla, who talks about DICE and how DICE feel their clients. Well, that's a terrible word. The mother with their own bodies. They map the woman's body in their own body because they're also women. They use their hands, they use their voice, they use their eyes, they use their senses to receive information. And it's always in connection with the woman. If we look at midwifery care traditionally, and some of our wonderful midwives in India do that all the time, they touch, they talk, they spend time, they make eye contact, they're interested. This is all a part of giving care. How do we give care? The first step of giving care to somebody says, I'm interested in you. And so we see this kind of maternity care where the midwife may palpate the belly while talking to the mother, including the baby, saying, oh, so what's going on with this little one today? Can you feel my hands? Almost as if there is a relationship. Well, there is a relationship. She's furthering that relationship. And in her palpatory skill, if she feels that, okay, I'm not feeling enough fluidity under my hands. She may say, oh, this is how I feel. Maybe we should get it checked. But how does the other format of care work? I don't care who you are. I've not made eye contact with you. I haven't looked at you. In fact, when I walk into a doctor's office, there are a whole battery of, or an army of people who are taking, yes, what do you want? So there is already their disconnect. There's also a sense of, the doctor is busy, so you've got to go through all of this before you meet your doctor. And therein lies the power dynamics of providing. I have a lot to give to everybody. I have to provide, so I have this much time. And then you're offering your history to somebody who's writing this way. They're looking at their paper and saying, okay, first baby, tick. They're not making eye contact with you. They're taking the hard facts of your life without understanding that these facts alone don't tell the story of your life. So there is a very big disconnect in the purpose of how maternity care is given when we are making it very doctor centric and not human centric. I mean, doctors are also human, so it doesn't take much for them to connect. Your doctor's visits are really scheduled tight. Your waiting room time is more than you're visiting a doctor. And sometimes they haven't even looked at you or touched you, and you are given a battery of tests. Unfortunately, when those tests come back as numbers, they're still interested in the numbers. Now, if we are going to talk about this in sense of a human caregiving or a human being growing, we are embodying a human being. There was a cell, and that cell is coming into his own body. And here is the mother, through what she's hearing from her care, is disembodied. I'm no longer a body. I'm a value. How many weeks are you? How many kick counts do you have? What is your hemoglobin level? What is the baby's heart? These are all numbers. So you are expecting a mother to shape the body of the baby through an disembodied experience of her own life. And how does that work out for her? We are asking her to trust when we are not trusting her. We're asking her to feel connection when we don't have any connection with her. We're asking her nature is going to take care, whereas we have a battery of tests that is only going to tell us how nature is going to fail. How is this care provided for maternity care now become? And how can we then bring in an element that says, well, it's still a baby, you're still human, your feelings matter, you matter. Because if the mother doesn't matter, how much does the baby matter? So this is the way the conversation I wanted to take it, and also a little bit of an interaction with you as to how many of you feel disconnected in your maternity care. And then we want to do some brainstorming today and talk about how doulas can bring up that bridge that will bring you back into your body, perhaps even, the connection that you feel from outside. Maybe doulas can do it. Maybe even family can do it. Maybe
Yeah, Divya, because
communities of women can do it. Yeah.
all cities may not have doulas as a
Or
support.
midwives.
So how can, or midwives, or so how can families help in that in bridging that gap?
Yeah, so families also know this. I mean, I think the yin and yang is there as well. Earlier, when a woman was who used to get pregnant, there was a certain traditional point of view of nurturing her, whether it was with food she ate, whether it was protecting her from adverse experiences of maybe illness, of somebody else's illness or social norms, whether it was, listening to her cravings, so to speak. So, in Ayurveda, they say that in the fourth month, when she becomes dohirdini, two-hearted, then we must listen to her cravings because she's also speaking the voice of the baby. And we're talking the opposite now, unfortunately. And now, somewhere along the line, whether we were told or we believed that strength means not to, pay attention to these subtleties of change of pregnancy, which is yet another disconnect. We say birth is natural, but it's not a disease. Look at the way we're talking about it. Yes, birth, pregnancy is natural, but it is not your normal state of functioning. So every time you do something different, you add something different, you want to learn something different, create something different, some change has to come about. Let's talk it in a simple way. So you may be cooking food for your home every day, and you have a timing in the morning, say from 8 to 9:30, you're done. But if you want to call people for dinner, just a simple social engagement, you might take extra time for grocery shopping, for planning the menu, for even cooking. So you have to do something different to get a different result. Same way, when we talk about pregnancy being natural, on one hand, we're trying to celebrate it as natural, but it's also a little bit dismissive in the way that, it's natural, it'll happen on its own. It somehow I feel that we've held that boundary and used natural to diminish the importance of the kind of phenomenal change we are making in our bodies, creating another human being as we are pregnant. So the difference between caregiving and care providing in families would be caregiving would be listening to the mother, connecting with her, ask, even if she says, I feel this craving, or she says, I feel this way, digging a little bit deeper, saying, okay, how interesting that the baby is showing you a new side to yourself. Tell me more. Not giving it a context, not giving it an explanation, not even trying to justify it or make her feel good or not, but trusting that through these conversations, through these explorations, that baby is growing the mother. But if we look at the yang of it, we might say, oh, well, pregnancy is natural, just eat well, do your exercise. It's such a do. So for me, in the care, in the whole yin and yang of maternity care is, one is an inward exploration, moving through the mother to the baby, and one is moving away from the mother with an outcome of a baby, with an idea of a baby. This baby versus of a baby to look after the baby and the mother. Both intend to, look at the safety and the growth of the mother. It rarely can be achieved growth when we are looking at safety and protection. If a country is finding and defending its borders, is fighting a war, infrastructure isn't going to grow, culture isn't going to grow. That's a macroism of what I'm talking about. If we are defending ourselves, if we are stressed, our immune systems aren't working, our repair systems aren't working. So by adding a paradigm of do, pressure, achievement, and dismissive of that personal self, we're actually setting the mom and baby up to anxiety and everything that maternal anxiety can then bring to the baby. So, if you don't have a midwife or a doula, you don't even have family, look for community, look for other moms. Speak out yourself. Sometimes you can become the beacon or the lighthouse that attracts other women to join. So in the caregiving paradigm, we don't have to, nobody's higher than the other giving. We are all
Right.
givers. And therefore, when we all bring our little bit to the table, look at the amount we've collected in abundance. That's the purpose of communities. That's why women's most caregivers for women, they map that in their own bodies. They resonated with their own physicality. Birth is highly physical. So a little bit of, even if say you're with a doctor and you're being given all this prescriptive care, it's okay for you to say, I'm the kind of person who'll add another 10 minutes to my appointment so that we can have a chat. And you might find that there are some doctors who'll be happy to do it. And that's a good fit for you. If you are the kind of person for whom the prescriptive field works, that's fine too. Then see, how do you find connection with your body, with your baby, with your family, with your community? and that power comes back to you. So the yin and the yang of maternity care is not just about care providers. Tanvi, we never talk of a conversation where the power lies outside of ourselves,
True.
because that's really of no purpose. Everybody knows what the problem is. So we are always seeking how we find a solution for this. And in this case, uh, this like every other case in our life, the solution lies within us. So see how you can connect with community, with family, with friends, with other moms, with professionals. As you make these connections, you might find things arising which might be helpful for you. And then seeking help in those directions, seeking support in those directions, and also having a word with your doctor. Sometimes it might take your one step to be human with your doctor to make them feel, oh, yeah, we're all humans, because they are programmed to do the ticks and the numbers and get through that day. Sometimes you can say, wow, you're looking really pretty today, or you look tired. Sometimes you can start the conversation that becomes the yin in the relationship between the doctor and you.
Right,
Yeah.
that's one of the comments that Neha has also put up, saying that I had no one really with me for my labors, and the partner was not allowed, and no doula back then. But I did fine because my relationship with the doctor was very positive, and she cared for me and respected me.
Yeah. So once
So
again,
that's
no, it's
exactly
not the
what you said.
polarity of the yin and the yang. Somewhere in the middle, because there's a dot of the yin in the yang and a bit of the yang in the yin, somewhere in the middle is a place where we can say, okay, that feels okay to me, not even good. If I can rest just in this moment, look at the potential from there, because everything else becomes available and open to me from that point. And I can let go of what I should have done, or I could have done, or I would have done, past, future, all those pressures I could have give that up and say, what feels right for me and my baby in this moment? I truly believe that there isn't a single care provider or a caregiver or a family member or a parent in the world that actually means harm to the baby. We've just lost connection, I think, at different levels. If we look at the way we were born, especially the generation, even mine, because I think my mother was the first in her family to give birth in a hospital. Already there was a disconnect. And then so the way we were born, the way we were parented, the kind of pressures we are feeling now with society from ourselves, our own expectations, we feel very disconnected. So maybe between the giving and the providing, we will find a place where we can take a deep breath and say, yeah, I'm okay here. And in this moment, I can become present to my baby and myself. And then with that resource of connection with another human being, if I go out and even meet my doctor and say, yeah, how are you doing? And talk not in terms with, I got my test done, my blood pressure is so and so. You say, I felt really good this month. I could feel the baby move. Or I ate some really interesting food. I had a craving. Have a human conversation. Is that possible for some people? If it's not with your doctor, is it possible for you to have a conversation like that with somebody? If you do, then that's the space where you can be. That's your support system. That's your caregiver. And that's the person, or that's the community that will put a layer around you so that you can be yourself and be with the baby, and model that in terms of this is how care is given, and give that down to the baby.
Right.
So there are
So
many good
Neha is
care
saying
providers
there are many
out
good
there.
care providers out there. It depends on how you build that feminine relationship with them.
Yeah, true. And if they want to
True,
be
Neha.
providers, it's great, because sometimes they may need those numbers to keep you safe, because that's what they do really well. That doesn't mean that they're not human. And that is why I said that even if they are doing that, you can become the yin in that maternity care.
Kanojia Kiran is asking, so do we get a midwife and caregivers in hospital, or is it just doctor only?
Some hospitals may have midwives. That is something that is coming up now. There are some birth centers that are run by midwives. But we can't really say if we tell everybody to go to a midwife and there are just two right now in India or maybe a little bit more. Can you imagine the quality of care that they may be given if there are large numbers? So they are also human. Likewise, let's bring to our attention that even doctors are human. What are our expectations from them? So when we go to a doctor, we expect them to take charge, or do we? So maybe we should also then say, that's why I said, if we can become the yin to their yang, we'll find a middle ground. Because they might feel, who knows, they might be feeling pressure of doing everything right. But how do we see right from wrong? Only from what we know, we experience, we've learned, and our beliefs. So sometimes the doctors who are supposedly the really closed and conforming to somewhat protocols may be doing in their mind what they believe is the right way to function. And sometimes they may feel a big disconnect because I cannot even imagine that that's how they started the complete disconnect that they have with the process. Maybe by connecting too much, it becomes too much for them to take. It becomes too overwhelming. Maybe if they connect too much, they might feel the burden of a lot of responsibility that families may put on them. So by just saying, I'm human and you're human, and having that conversation, you might change the tone of your care provider to caregiver. There is potential. So no, it's not just midwives, it's not just doctors, it's human beings. And exploring our own relation with them to say, this is my expectation of my care. This is your job. This is my job because this is my baby. So I'm doing my bit, you do your bit, and let's talk. It's a good, healthy relationship. And you might find that many doctors might agree to that. So in the last 20 years, ever since I started working, I couldn't have done what I've done if I didn't have a partner who was also a doctor. She supported me, just like I supported her. So there was a relationship of mutual respect, mutual listening, and not saying, I know better than you. I don't know what she knows. I cannot do what she does. But I was that little dot in her yang that helped her look at her clients differently. And it brought great joy to both of us, great reward to both of us. And I've had similar relationships with not just one doctor, so this is not just one person. Many doctors that I work with, essentially as a doula in Delhi, I have worked only in hospitals. And I have that relationship with many doctors. So some of it is them receiving what I'm offering, and some of it is me opening up to what they may have. And sometimes dropping those defenses might give you a better relationship because unfortunately, even the conversation around maternity care has become very yang, protector, provider kind. Do this, don't do this, tell your doctor. Maybe that's the little change we may need. And of course, that we'll have to explore a few doctors as well because not everybody is at the same
In
place to
fact,
receive what
just in your
we want
first
or give us what
visit
we
to,
want.
sorry, I was just sharing that in the first visit to a hospital these days, there's a complete checklist which is given to you with all the expected tests, all the expected ultrasound, do's and don'ts. So yeah.
That's true. That's true. But think, I mean, I'm talking not too far away. I'm talking even 5 years ago. That wasn't so. 10 years ago, absolutely no. 20 years ago, not at all. There were relationships with doctors. And if we talk about the good old noble profession, bedside manner was actually something that was inculcated in doctors because they said that how you talk to your client will be a lot more effective than what you give them as a dawai. So why we want to talk about this in terms of saying why are we hearing so much of this checklisting? Perhaps in the new paradigm of society that we live in, it's considered professional, and they're just meeting that, and we can receive it, but hold steady in our heart the quality of yin, the grounded quality of yin, and say, okay, that's nice. When can I meet the doctor? When can I speak to her? And then in a conversation, say, I've got a whole list, but are you going to go by the list or are you going to go by me? Playfully. We say that babies learn playfully, but play is a very important, unstructured way of communication, a very important part of how we can relate. Our brains are actually designed to put everything that is known, aside. That's not important. It's not novelty. But when we meet somebody who talks differently, when we meet somebody who makes a little joke, there is something unique about them. We remember that that's novelty. You might catch your care provider's eye. I mean, I'm sure when I'm saying this, the other side I'm trying to say, but not really saying it loudly enough, is that the doctors are completely disconnected and deadened by the boredom of just the checklist. Maybe they need a little bit of a human conversation. Let's save them from that. And if they're receptive to it, then you know you found somebody. If they are not, that also tells you this is not a good fit.
Right. So I'm going to actually take a pause here and just invite, a few questions if anyone has, around the discussion that we're having this afternoon. Yes, so Neha is saying birth is not a battleground. True, Neha.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And when it becomes a battleground, guess who becomes the pawn on the battleground? The foot soldier is the doula. Because we're getting it wrong both sides. We have two generals screaming at us, but it's not a battleground. That is.
So anyone has
So I
any
want to open up
questions?
another point.
Yes, Divya.
Yeah, so there's another point that I wanted to bring in about. I'm sorry, I'm going to take a moment to laugh at her, what she's just posted with that little. I also feel like a monkey. So, another part of this yin and yang care is our own dependence now that we have on technology. Because the technology can be very useful, but it can also become a disconnect and a distraction. So, just when you go for your ultrasound is not the only time that you see your baby. When you look outward with your eyes, that is seeing. But when you look inside, that's a vision. You can visualize your baby. You can have a vision of your baby. That's the yin quality of your pregnancy to the yang quality of that ultrasound test, which is outside of you. So, what is now happening more and more to my utter dismay is that because there is a battery of tests that have been bombarded on us, we are going from one prenatal visit to another and one test to another as a well-being for our child and ourselves.
Right.
And we have lost that really innate connection with our bodies that is forever telling us what we are doing. While we were having a conversation last night on Coffee Con, Kate said, "What does it mean about body worker?" And it just struck me at that time that I'm a body worker as well. And this is a point that should really be brought forth. Your body is able to tell you even the slightest change. I feel well today, my mood is off today, I'm just a little bit slow today. How many of us have tuned into that? We are not building the baby with the food we are eating and the yoga we are doing and the supplements we are eating. We are building the baby's body with our own body. And so, are they not in connection? Are they not talking to each other? So the baby is talking to your body is talking to the baby, your body is also talking to you, but you're not listening because you are so caught up in technology. I find apps and more these things are coming because it's a market, but they are taking us more and more far away from what we already knew. Midwives used to hear the baby's heart rate with a piniard, which is like a funnel which they could hear. And now the same nurse is listening to your baby's heart rate 3 feet away outside your room with a continuous monitoring. And Those midwives who heard them while they were holding it and talking to you had a better sense of the baby than the nurse outside who's looking at the graph go up and down. Well, they are doing that, but let's not do that to ourselves. So if that is the yang and it's a protective measure, by all means embrace it. But don't change what you have. Don't give that up because that yin is in you. So how are we relating to the baby? How we are talking to the baby? How we are feeling the baby within? You don't think a mother's intuition would know when something is wrong. We have a sense of that. So there is a very interesting story that Dr. Peter Levine writes, and he says that this family was on a safari and they were sitting on two benches facing each other. And then out of nowhere, this mother jumps up and shuts the window. And within a second, there is a big snake that pops up. She was aware. She had sensed danger in a way that cannot be cognized or explained, but it is very much there in our bodies. So why are we giving up that sense totally these days? That's not okay. So, it's not always what others can do for us, but if we stay connected to the baby, there is a lot of subtlety that might come across. I can give you a very good example of it outside, which can be seen and quantified. Moms who carry their babies, they hold their babies, are paying attention to their children, are very tuned into their baby's cries. So within 2 weeks, mothers can say, "Oh, the baby's crying like this. This is what it means. The baby's crying like this. He's making this face. This is what it means." We all know that it's not new. If that sense can come by this connection, that sense can come from an internal connection. Your body is talking to you all the time. Yeah, that's all I had
So,
to say about that.
uh, Neha is asking a question. Can you suggest some simple ways to tune into this sense?
Yeah, there are many ways. Firstly, put your feet on the ground and feel how the ground feels under your feet. The the moment you put your feet on the ground and you can sense into the ground, that's a connection right there. And then if you can't feel it, then you can either tap on your hand or on your legs. So if you couldn't sense anything, now after tapping, can you sense a sensation on your skin? How does that
Yes.
sensation feel for you? Was it a pleasant touch? Was it unpleasant? Was there a tingling? Uh, was it painful? Was it a restorative touch? What was the pressure you wanted to give yourself to get a feel of your own hand on your arm? And you'll find some of us may be very much in tune with our bodies. And some of us may need a little bit of a coaxing because we're so used to paying attention on the outside, hearing instructions from outside, that this sense is a little bit um, put under layers. It's there. And if that is so, you can start to think of a joyful moment and say, okay, as I feel and think about this joyful moment, what changes are happening in my body? And you might feel an expansion and in a place. You may feel, some people may feel pleasantly heavy, and some people will feel unpleasantly heavy and leaden. So, heavy itself is not right or wrong, but how you feel that sensation will say, oh, when I feel something joyful, this is the sensation in my body. Then bring your attention to your baby and say, we're feeling joy. Can you feel it? Because it's connected with your sensations, your heartbeat at that time, your body chemistry at that time, your breath at that time, your words at that time.
Divya, your voice is breaking a little.
Okay. Yes, I think we have this normal action every time we are talking. Um,
Yeah.
can you hear me now? Can you
Yes,
hear me
can
now?
hear you, but not see you very
Oh,
properly. Can hear you.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So we were talking about First, you get into the sense of joy. Then think the word trust. Think of somebody you truly trust. Think what that sensation of trust is. Think into your childhood. When did you first think of that sensation of trust? Then let the baby feel the trust through your body and tell the baby in that tone. Your voice will change, and the baby will get a sense of your voice, your heartbeat, your body chemistry, your tissue tone as a what is called the felt sense of that emotion. And that would be wonderful gift to give. Each day you can explore and give your baby, or each week you can explore and give your baby a gift. The gift of creativity, the gift of faith, the gift of trust, the gift of joy, happiness, bliss, whatever you want to gift your baby. And that's a wonderful connection.
Great. Neha is also asking, what's the role of yang in birth and how does one balance this yin and yang?
That is the role of yang. So sometimes birth needs action, which may be as simple as this position, the baby is not finding a good way through the pelvis, so let's change the position. And the yin is to be and to listen in and to tune in. And yang would then, the dot of the yang would then be to take action. So in the yin, the yang would be to listen to your body and take action. And the complementary yang would be, this is outside my control. So the pressure of achieving everything is not just in me. I can only do what I can feel through me. But if I need help, then the providing and the protecting yang can take over. And in that sense of providing and protecting, if there's an emergency, the dot of yin would say, I know this is hard for you. I know, but I'm here. We are here for you. We're going to make it through. Same thing you can offer to the baby in the yang situation, when the whole emergency arises, when it's no longer within your control, because it's not physically possible to be in your control. Yet you know that now is the point where I do need help. So even when the work power moves outside of you, the power of asking for it, knowing that it needs help, still may be yours. So that's how they're complementary. And the little bit of kindness, compassion from people around you, and from you to the baby to say, yes, that you can hear all the beeping, you can hear my heart rate increase. Yes, I may even be disappointed with this outcome, but you're safe. I'm doing everything so that we can be together again. We're going to make it. How do you give the yin to the baby? So the role of yang, it comes in when the yin offer says, I need you. And then the protection comes in. And even in the being, you can do a little bit of a doing. And even in the doing, you can be a little bit human. And both of them can work really well together as complementary for our human experience, but more importantly, for the experience of birth for this baby. I hope that makes
Right.
sense.
Divya, just I wanted you to add. So we were talking about caregivers and care providers, and you mentioned in caregivers the role of a doula or a midwife. So can you elaborate a little bit more, for our listeners, how and actually what is the role that a doula and a midwife can play in balancing that?
So we're going to put them all in different places. So midwife started with the idea of with woman, right? And let's assume that from time immemorial, women have not given birth alone, and they had other women with them. And these women, from their own bodily sense, from their own experience, from their experience of giving care to other women, knew, had a knowing of how the body works, what the woman needs. And I would say that would be the first midwife, with woman. She was with woman. And as, of course, we progress, some good practices may have come in. which we could say culturally, are done. And then, of course, we progressed even more, and now there is a whole study about giving care as a midwife. And those are the midwives we talk about, the certified professional midwives that we talk about. So we've also looked at how they've moved on, but as we've included more um, structured care, and there is a relevance of that, and we midwives have kind of married it to the more personalizing care. So you say a midwife's visit may be over an hour long, whereas a doctor's visit may be also an hour long, but more in the waiting room than with the doctor. So there's be a very distinct difference. So as we are going to structure things around birth, two things will happen. So the yang will become a little bit more prominent, which is good because it's safety, and the yin might just come down a little. So doulas can add that extra level of yin, no matter who you give birth with. So we'd say that midwives are quite yin, but their work might include some paperwork, some looking at medical aspects. So another layer of support can come from a doula. Doulas themselves are not medical caregivers. We can give you information, we can explain the procedure to you, but we are not going to ever advise you or tell you what to do. Which is true even for doctors and midwives. They will also lay out your options. Ultimately, the decision comes from you. But we are not even offering you information in terms of we can do the research for you, we can bring you evidence, we can bring you how it is done, what is done, why it's done. We cannot tell you whether you should do it or not, or whether we should do it for you. That's not going to happen. So that's the role of a doula. And a doctor, we all know, has spent 5 years studying pathology, working as residents and intern at the cutting edge of drama. Uh, Something happening is exciting for them. Uh, a large part of their curriculum is pathology, and then they specialize and look at deeper pathology in these things. Only obstetrics, they are not, even obstetrics, their attention is mostly around what might go wrong. So, which is why you don't find them getting very sparked up about everything is all right. Oh, everything is all right, go home. Because I have nothing to do here. Whereas a midwife might even explain to you there are changes. I'll give you an example. When you take in your third and you enter in your third trimester and you get your blood work done and you find that your hemoglobin has dropped a few points, your midwife looks at it and looks at physiology, saying, "Oh yeah, so your body has now increased blood volume." I'm going to use really layman language because I'm a doula and I'm not a medical provider. So this is my understanding that your blood volume increases, and because of increase of blood volume, the dilution happens in your hemoglobin, and your hemoglobin drops a few points. So midwives are not looking at a physiological drop as anemia, but the doctors are talking, oh, your hemoglobin has dropped, let's give you something for it. So there's a really different approach, the yin and the yang approach. You can see it right there. This dropping, that is actually telling the midwife that your body is working well. And then she might talk about diet and other things. And so if this drops, you might feel a little tired. So she's explaining what this change may mean when it's translated to your life. Whereas the doctor's looking at the drop and saying, your hemoglobin has dropped, medication. How many doctors will take time to explain? So that's the difference in approach. But they're both hoping to serve women and babies. And I go back to say that I don't think there's anybody in this society, in humanity, that might want to harm a pregnant woman and baby. If there is, that's not normal. So we must not question the intent here, perhaps. Maybe we can question education. Some are not. Uh, we can look at it in many different ways, but we are never questioning the intent of humanity. Because when we begin to question the intent of humanity, then we know that there is no repair left. Beliefs can be
Right.
changed, education can be done, approaches can change. But if your intention is to harm, then that's a very difficult thing. Does that help,
Right.
Tanvi? Does that answer your question?
Absolutely. In fact, we have a midwife, Dr. Vijaya Krishnan, who will be with us for our coffee
Coffee con.
conversations this week, wherein she will be talking about trust in body, baby, and the caregiver. So, if any one of you
Yeah.
are interested in joining that conversation with us, please register on our e-learning platform, which is elearning.birthbonds.com. And this conversation will be available live on our Facebook page, which is My Child First 20. And also, we are going to be streaming it live on our YouTube channel, which is My Child First. She will be live with us on the 8th of August. So if any one of you are interested in knowing her perspective, she's a certified professional midwife, and she's also the co-founder of the Sanctum Natural Birth Center, which is based at Hyderabad.
Also, to let you know, those of you who have already registered, each of these conversations are already now on that platform open for you. And we have a discussion group going because we would love to hear your comments about that conversation. If you need more insight, some information, material, that is our next step. If you write into on the discussion box there, and we would meet whatever way we can, your needs and informational or otherwise. Please do tune in if you are already registered with us.
Yeah. In fact, today we have an interesting topic. Sorry, Divya, I'm taking away the time from
Please
you,
do. Please
but
do.
I thought it's important just to talk about it as well. We have Gota Haripriya, who's a family life coach, and she's also a trustee of the Coimbatore Parenting Network. So a lot of you would know her already. So she's going to be with us this evening, and she will be primarily talking about toddler and how you can magically handle the tantrums and the meltdowns of the kids. So her
Yeah.
perspectives are very, very, very thought-provoking. So if any one of you is interested, please join us on our Facebook Live and YouTube Live tonight at 9 p.m.
Yeah.
So, if there are no more questions, you are you're more than welcome to leave the questions for later as well, because we usually take up the questions, which come up later in our IGTV or otherwise in our comments. So we can answer those later as well. Divya,
Okay.
any
No. I
comments,
was just
goodbye
thinking that
comments?
most of my conversations are with a coffee cup in my hand. I was just thinking
No
somebody's
wonder
going to
you
say
love
that there's always,
coffee.
yeah, there's always going to be a coffee cup in my hand when we're having a conversation. Some of our
Yeah.
conversations are very offbeat. I accept that, but I think it's time we had them. If we keep following the narrative that is already there, then be sure that you're being programmed. So, um, new conversations are novelty for your brain, and they will make you think, give you choices, and set you free.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us for this Talking Tuesday. And we are going to soon announce our topic for the next Talking Tuesday. In the meanwhile, we love having discussions, we love having conversations with you all. So do join us for our coffee conversations, and also otherwise, on our Insta page, if there is anything that you would want to ask us, or just send us a direct message. Thank you so much.